All right, welcome. Good evening. Welcome to Sunrise Mountain High School, to our first annual Community Coaches Forum. We're excited about this opportunity and partnering with the City of Peoria and also Liberty High School. Hopefully we can impart some great information to you with regard to high school athletics, and that you leave here feeling informed and that it was worth your while. What I'd like to do is go ahead and introduce to you Kevin Ray, our moderator for the evening. Come on up, Kevin. And I'd also like to have each of our coaching panelists and student athletes introduce themselves. I'm going to go ahead and start right here on the end with Amber.
Hi, I'm Amber Hamad.
I'm Brian Green. I've been here at Sunrise for 8 years, and I've coached for 10 years, and I coach freshman football and boys JV soccer.
I'm Jennifer Kubo. This is my 6th year at Sunrise Mountain. I've coached varsity girls basketball for 8 years total. This will be my 4th year here at Sunrise Mountain with varsity girls basketball, as well as freshman volleyball and softball.
My name is Shauna Johnson, and I have been at Sunrise for 8 years. I have been the varsity girls soccer coach for all of those years that I have been here.
My name is Erin McCrae, and I coach varsity soccer at Liberty High School, and I have been there for, well, since we opened, so 6 years.
My name is Jason Bazinski. This is my 14th year here at Sunrise Mountain. I'm the boys varsity basketball coach. It's my 11th year as the basketball coach. Prior to that, I had coached baseball for a year here at Sunrise. So that's that.
My name is Mark Wood, head basketball coach for boys at Liberty High School. I've been there since the school opened. I've coached for about 14 years, all basketball.
Hi, my name is Courtney Johnson. I'm the varsity girls volleyball coach at Liberty High School, and I'm the JV boys volleyball coach at Liberty. I've been there since the school opened, so 6 years.
Hi, I'm Trevor Miglarino, and I'm a junior at Sunrise Mountain High School. I play varsity swim, soccer, and volleyball.
Hi, I'm Taylor Fitzgerald. I'm a senior at Liberty, and I play varsity softball.
Hi, I'm Nathan Bannister, and I'm part of the basketball and baseball programs at Liberty High School.
My name's Courtney Hall. I coach varsity softball at Liberty, and this is my 5th year coaching.
Gardner, head baseball coach at Sunrise Mountain High School, 14 years.
Dan Philman, varsity football coach, 6 years at Liberty and 15 years total coaching.
All right, well, thank you very much, coaches, and thank you again to Rick and Christine, their administrations, and the coaches for having me. It's an honor to be here tonight, and we will go ahead and get this evening's forum started. I think the first question that we would like to begin with, that many of the students, student athletes, and the parents who are here in attendance would maybe like to know is the coaching philosophy, and how much it maybe differs and the changes from coaching youth sports, say in that 5th to 8th grade age category, to high school sports. So what I would like to do is have a couple of the coaches from the varsity sports address maybe in their opinion the biggest difference in the overall coaching philosophy of coaching kids from 5th to 8th grade to the age group of freshmen all the way through seniors. So let's begin first off with one of the coaches here from Sunrise Mountain. Is there a coach that would like to address that?
As far as coaching philosophy for the girls basketball program, and I think most coaches, we want to teach character first and foremost with these young people, and I think character goes all the way back to 5th grade on up. You know, we want the people to leave our programs as good citizens, good people, ready to play at the next level, if that's a possibility. And we want them to carry the values that we've taught them on and off the court through our coaching style. So I think that, along with the Victory with Honor motto, you know, we want our athletes to walk away knowing that they're better people because of that.
All right, thank you very much, Coach. And the one thing that we will do later on when we open up questions to the studio audience is to find out how many of you are familiar with the Victory with Honor initiative that the AIA put into action several years ago. Something very important that as you get your young student athlete prepared for both junior high athletics and certainly high school athletics, something you will want to educate yourself with. Let's, if I could have Eric Gardner, and Eric, if you can address from the baseball perspective, because I know with baseball, particularly here in Arizona, how it's played year-round, and it seems like just in talking to parents, how much pressure is put on young baseball players, particularly with club. How are you addressing the coaching philosophy, and what are you finding when you get those athletes, say as a freshman and a sophomore? Is there, I guess, maybe a certain thing that you have to do to break them down based on some of the previous coaching they've received at that club level?
Well, I think first and foremost is the fact that we get a lot of athletes or a lot of baseball players here in our community here at Sunrise Mountain or other schools that come to us, and we almost have to convince them that less is more. We almost have to convince them that we don't play every single weekend, and it's not year-round. In club baseball, there's a tournament every single weekend, and the kids are going. But we find more and more every year that I have more and more kids that have injuries as freshmen because they've pitched so many innings, they've played so many games, and so each year we're working to convince parents that you don't have to play all the time. You don't have to play, and there is a good time to have a time period off. And although we do a lot of things here in our program at Sunrise Mountain, it's not always baseball. It's a lot of the lifting and the conditioning and things like that. And so a big message that we try to send is that to our parents is that these kids need time off. Their bodies are growing, they're young, and there's a lot of pressure because now there is club baseball at 9U, 10U, 11U, and there's a trophy every weekend that you can win being a 9U, and that's a big deal to a lot of kids. But the reality is that the longer they continue that streak of playing every weekend from the age 9 until they're 15, the shorter their career is going to become when they're 17 to 22.
Thank you very much, Eric. And if I could get each of the soccer coaches for both the respective schools, because I know soccer is another sport that's played year-round here in this state, and just knowing how incredibly competitive the club soccer is, getting your thoughts not only on that philosophy, but the philosophy of, is it smart at that age to have a student athlete focused on only one sport? Coach, I'll begin with you. You're closest here.
I think we both agree that the club arena will prepare the athletes to be competitive varsity players in soccer. But as far as focusing at a young age on one sport, an athlete is an athlete. And mostly what we find is that any type of just athleticism that a student can acquire in a sport, it will transition over into the other sport. And more importantly, when the kids are put into a club environment at a really, really young age, a lot of times they'll get burnt out, they'll be injured, or as they pass through puberty, their skills change and they can no longer compete because they've learned to rely on other aspects of the game, and when they get to perhaps like the high school level and the varsity level, everything shifts and everything changes. Does that help?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I'd like to add to that is that it is very, very important for our athletes, especially in soccer, to learn to play more than just one position, to be well-rounded. Don't focus in at such a young age as U9, U10, even U12, that you're going to be a striker or you're going to be a defender. Because what happens with soccer is that if you can play one position and if you continue to hone in on your skills, and specifically your ball skills and your control and the basics themselves, those carry over to the other positions. But far too often and I believe we both do, we have these athletes that come in and they have set in their mind that they're only going to be a forward. And that doesn't always work out to their advantage at the high school level. Because you have returners, you have other players that have been more successful maybe in that specific position, but now we need other players to fulfill other roles as well. So don't be locked into just one role or another role. Be open and learn to play all of those positions.
Okay, thank you very much, coaches. And if we could, perhaps getting Amber, if you would like to address from a student-athlete's perspective, maybe when you began noticing a change in the coaching philosophy, or if you noticed a coaching change in the coaching philosophy, I should say, from the time when you played youth sports to now playing here high school athletics.
Well, one of the main things I noticed between difference in like the way I've been coached, before I was brought into the high school sports, I played rec soccer, and I really wasn't coached as intensely as I was in high school soccer. High school soccer more or less brought me into the position that I now play, and in like rec soccer, I was brought into like many different positions so that I would be ready for high school soccer when my assigned position was assigned. Then once I started playing high school soccer, I got into club soccer, which also helped me for the next season when high school soccer did come. And so that really did help me with my skills, and it helped me build more than just what would rec soccer probably would have done. So that's about it.
Okay, thank you very much, Amber. And moving along, let's move to another topic, and this ties in somewhat in terms of the philosophy, but from a physical standpoint. And in today's incredibly competitive world, you find more and more parents who want to make sure that their young athlete is physically prepared to play sports. And as a result, you're seeing more and more kids at a very young age begin lifting weights. So I know the questions that some of you may have is, when is it an appropriate time for my son or daughter to start lifting using actual weights? So let's begin. I'll start with head coach Dan Filliman from the Liberty football staff. Coach, when do you feel in your mind, when have you found throughout the years that it's best suited for a young man or a young woman to begin actually lifting weights?
For us, we bring them in as freshmen right before they get to us. So after their 8th grade year, we bring them in and we get them on our program at our school, and it's a very basic program. I wouldn't recommend really lifting heavy weights and getting into heavy weightlifting until you're at least almost a sophomore. I mean, we'll get you into a program and teach you how to lift properly, but a lot of it is lighter weights, more reps, just because their bodies aren't done growing yet. And if you, at an earlier age, you can do a lot of damage, to your body, to your growth plates if you're trying to lift heavy. What I would tell you to prepare is, one, play as many sports as you possibly can. Just don't focus on, hey, I'm going to play football or baseball. Play all different ones. All of our skills, cross over. So, the skills you learn in playing rec basketball are going to directly help you in football and vice versa. So don't just focus on one sport, but also if you want to get into training, do body weight stuff. Learn how to do push-ups. Learn how to do sit-ups and plyometrics. Not going to the weight room and doing a lot of weight. It's not going to help you right now. You might get stronger, but your body's still not done growing. So you need to make sure that you are training properly. And I think that one of the best ways is just getting out and playing other sports, being active. And when you get to high school, then we'll start getting into our weight program, and we'll put on the pounds. I know people want to gain weight and be bigger. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's a process. And for us at Liberty, I know we get you guys in the summer of your freshman year, and we put you on a very low weight, high rep program to get you used to lifting properly, and that's going to be the biggest key. So I know a lot of our kids come in, they have this weight room set in the garage, and they do the exercises improperly, which is more dangerous to you. So I'd rather see kids do other sports and train like plyometrics and do upper body plyometrics like push-ups and things like that to get them stronger, but not necessarily lifting heavy weights until they get to us. And we'll get them into heavier weights after their freshman year. Between freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, we see a lot of progression then.
Eric, I know you had some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I just want to kind of support what he said on that. Even football and baseball are a lot different in ways that a lot of the football players, their lift, that's a big part of their program. But even for baseball and some of their sports, I know that our basketball program does it too. And there's a lot bigger focus today than there was in the past on core training. and fast training and agility training and core movements and things like that more than the lifting stuff, especially with our younger guys. And we do a lot of stuff for our baseball program, and I know Pazinski does the basketball program, where we're just doing a lot of that core strength training more than we are lifting and power cleaning and benching and things like that for our guys. Our guys do that at some point in the year, but that's becoming a bigger and bigger emphasis on athletics, is becoming a better all-around athlete than it is becoming just a strong guy or a strong girl in that regard. So just keep those things in mind, as Coach said here, is that core training, that speed training stuff is just as valuable as lifting the weights.
Okay. Let's get a female coach's perspective. Courtney Hall, if you would like to address from a female student athlete's perspective, when you would recommend they begin lifting, and what is your philosophy on that?
Well, it's kind of funny because I got my master's in sports conditioning, so I've been asked that question a lot. And when we went over that, there's not a specific age, like both of these guys were saying. There's not a specific age that is right or wrong to lift. If you start when you're younger, that's totally okay. But like Dan said, you can't be lifting really heavy weights and lifting them improperly. That's when you're going to start getting in trouble. If you want to start doing things you can do, body weight and speed stuff, and I know with softball a lot, we work on the same thing that Eric was talking about. We work on doing just plyometrics and agility and all that kind of stuff, because that works all the different sports. And it's not, you can make it sport specific, but you can also make it well-rounded. So if you are one of those athletes that's playing a bunch of different sports, it's going to help you all the time. Whereas if you're maybe lifting really heavy weights for one sport and then another sport calls for maybe baseball, you can't be lifting that heavy weights if you're a pitcher, then it's not going to kill you that way. So for the female perspective, we don't work a lot on weights. I work more on the core and that kind of thing rather than working those heavy weights, because female perspective, I think that you can gain some of it, but we're not really working on getting huge muscles and all that kind of stuff. It's more of agility and being able to move and more sport-specific kind of stuff.
Okay, thank you. Nathan, I know you're sitting there just to her right. If you could, from a student-athlete perspective, address when you first began, hitting the weight room, so to speak.
My freshman year definitely is when the first time I started lifting. I did high reps, low weight, and that's just the basics, just getting all the muscles you need, all the agility, all the skills that you need for other sports that you play. I mean, football, basketball, baseball, there's all different things, but if you do core and speed training, that will apply to all the sports.
Okay, thank you very much, Nathan. And I think this ties into the whole lifting thing and the intense competition that is out there with young student athletes. But I would like if some of you coaches could address supplements and how often you encounter your student athletes asking you in regards to supplements, because I know in today's world, parents are constantly inundated with the question from their young athletes, because they see these magazines with these star athletes and they're promoting certain products. And as a coach, how often are you hit with these questions, and how do you try to deal with those? If I could, Brian, I know you deal with a lot of the young athletes. Is that something you're seeing that's pretty prevalent with your group right now?
To be honest with you, no, I've not encountered it up to this point, to be quite honest with you. None of the student athletes have approached and asked about anything. I think the information's out there now, and it's pretty saturated in our society that steroids are bad for the kids or any performance-enhancing drugs. So up to this point in my career, I have yet to encounter that, to be quite honest with you.
Okay. Jason, for you, is that something that you've been there with the program for 11 years now? Is that something you've had to address as a coach?
No, not really, to be honest with you. In our program, I haven't dealt with it one time, and our kids are aware of it, like Coach Green said. They're aware of the risks and the dangers, and they're making smart decisions. I've never had a kid ask me, Coach, are there any type of even vitamins or anything that relates to vitamins or any type of performance enhancing, even over-the-counter type stuff. It's never come up in discussion. It's been just the technical lifting, how to get stronger through the lifts, or diet. I've had some kids that have come to me with diet questions,
right?
But never anything related to any performance enhancing drugs.
Well, hopefully that's a good sign. They're getting that education then from the moms and dads. Let's continue to move on here with our special coaches forum. What type of preparation should a youth player start focusing on before they look to move to that next level? And when I say preparation, both from a physical and mental, and perhaps we've addressed the physical aspect of it, but from a mental standpoint, how can a young athlete begin preparing himself or herself for what they'll encounter from not only a coaching perspective, but you're competing with that student athlete right next to you for a roster position, and that changes dramatically from maybe the way they had been coached before. So let's go around the table. Is there any coach that wants to address that one right off the bat before I get to pick somebody? Go ahead, Courtney.
Okay, this is kind of the flip side of our earlier conversation, but they have to be aware of what they want out of the high school sport. In rec ball, obviously they're playing because they like the sport, they want to have a good time, their friends are maybe playing. Whereas in high school, if they're going more towards different sports, they obviously are really wanting to make the team and they want to go to the next level. A lot of our players that we have, especially on the varsity teams, are wanting to go to that next level. And if that's something that your student athlete wants, then you are going to have to go to those club situations and stuff, because there might be one player who's just playing rec ball and another player who's playing club, and they're not going to be able to compare with one another. And that is the truth of the matter. There's year-round baseball, there's year-round softball, year-round club volleyball, and if they want to go to that next level, that college level, a lot of times they're going to have to do other things besides just high school ball. And they have to have realistic expectations when they come in that they're not going to, make the varsity team as a freshman if they're not doing anything outside of the high school. They have to be realistic in who they're competing against and the expectations that we have as coaches for each of the students making the team, because not in high school, not everyone is going to make the team. And even if you make the team, not everybody is going to get to play in every game or any game. Some of those people make the team and they're just really trying to get in that playing time. And the fact of the matter is that in high school, we are trying to put our best foot forward and put those players in who are doing that extra work. And sometimes that's not always happening with all the students. And so they have to be realistic of what their abilities are and what our expectations are as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Courtney. Let's have Trevor, if you would. Trevor, if you can tell our audience maybe when you began as a student athlete, kind of shifting your own mental approach and mental outlook on recreational sports to knowing that you were going to be playing at a competitive level in high school sports.
Well, when I was doing rec, I made sure I did as much rec as I could. I wanted to go and explore and see how many sports I could do and what I liked and didn't like. And that's where I found where I wanted to actually go into my sports that I want to do now. I'm a 3-sport athlete, and I like playing sports. So the actual mental aspect came to me when I was going out in tryouts in swim, and I found out that I'm going against club people who have way faster times, who are a lot bigger than me and who are a lot stronger than me. And the mental aspect really came in was when I want this more than they do. And that's when I really decided that I need to crank down and make sure that this is something I focus on. Another part of it was making sure I was mentally ready if I wanted a scholarship for athletics. And that was a big part in helping me figure out what I wanted to do and what I needed to be prepared for.
Okay, thank you very much. How about Taylor Fitzgerald? Taylor?
I've actually never played a club sport. I've all just done rec sports, but for the mental aspect, you do have to keep strong for all those people that have played club sports, and know that if you want it more and if you put more time into it during practices and you work hard, you can get that playing time, but you have to believe in yourself that you can, I guess.
Okay, thank you very much. And coaches, if you can, because I think we've identified here 2 different types of sports in that age category. We're talking about recreational and club, and clearly a distinct difference. And what I'd like to maybe have some of the coaches address is it easily recognizable for you as a coach to see, even without knowing what their accomplishments are coming in, that is a club athlete, that is a recreational athlete? And I see a couple of the coaches nodding their head there. Courtney, why don't you go ahead and address that one for us, if you would?
I've been around the scene for a while, and I've seen the athletes come in. And the recreational kids are the ones that, have a good basic skills. They are happy to be there. But then those club kids, you can just see they've been around, they've touched a ball 9 months out of the year. Their skills are above and beyond, and their competition, their intensity that they play the game at is a completely different level than the rec kids. And so, you don't need to know where they've played. You can just tell the difference in tryouts when you have 60 girls trying out for, a team of 12. You can see who's been putting in the off time, in the off season, playing that competitive ball, getting the repetitions, thank you, sorry. All those touches on the ball and being coached at an intense level and playing against, girls top in the state versus the kids that have done it through the city, have played for fun and maybe not have had as competitive games or competitive teammates as the other ones.
So how then, coaches, does a athlete, ultimately does a family decide? Because club is not cheap. I think a lot of these parents understand that, they recognize that. So how do they determine and decide, I've got a good student athlete here, but I've also got 4 other children. So how do they try to balance that? What kind of recommendations as a coach would you make to them? Aaron, I see you nodding your head here. Any advice you can offer up to the parents here?
This is a question that I get a lot from parents, and I have coached a myriad of levels from rec to Olympic development to high school and to club. And this question is something that the family has to decide. Club is a high commitment, financially and time. One thing I will say, if your athlete can demonstrate promise in his particular sport, in all clubs, there are scholarship opportunities and there are ways that you can get financial support. So don't let that be a reason to not pursue something if you see that your child has promise and passion. Most importantly, if they're in the rec arena and they get frustrated that the game is not progressing at the level that they want their game to progress and that their teammates aren't keeping up with their energy level and their passion for the game, then maybe it is time for you to pursue a different venue and a more competitive venue. Most importantly, though, I always caution the parents and I say, make sure that you're not doing it for you. Make sure that it is your child that is requesting that they increase their time commitment and the financial commitment that will invariably come when you put your kids in the club arena.
Right.
May I add to that? Sorry.
Please do.
Also, especially with soccer, when you move to that club aspect, also understand that there's various levels within a club as well. You're not always going to go in and be on that top team where you're gone every single weekend. There are the various levels, like I said, so some of them aren't as big of a time commitment as the upper levels, but they're still going to receive coaching that is going to be very beneficial to them, and they will still be playing at a higher level than maybe what they experienced at the recreational level. And also the other thing that I'd like to add is that even when you're playing at the recreation level, a way to help your students and your athletes begin to focus and prepare for high school is to make sure that they're playing for multiple people, and it's not just maybe your personal student athlete that's playing for you. Make sure that they understand those open lines of communication and also how to accept that constructive criticism and how to take that and grow with that. And in addition to that, make sure that they understand that when they get to the high school, the coaches are looking for that conversation between the player and the coach, not always for mom and dad to come in and have those conversations form. And those start at the freshman level and even before.
Thank you very much, Shauna. Let me ask Mark. Mark, you and Jason and any of the girls basketball coaches as well, but basketball clubs have really grown here in Arizona in particular, I would say, over the last 5 to 6 years. How do you as a varsity coach try and communicate to your player to make sure they find that balance? Obviously, as a coach, you like that they're out there getting reps, they're playing high competition, but you also want to know that they're going to be fresh and focused when they hit the floor with you. So are those conversations that you've had with players, with parents, and if so, how have you tried to address that?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things just to note, though, that we have run into, and that is be realistic as well. I mean, just because you are playing year-round and you are putting a lot of money in there, there comes sometimes a sense of, well, we've invested in this financially, therefore it's going to happen. And then they actually get to, a competitive level, and at that point, they're still not good enough to make it. So that's just, you got to be realistic as well. We do have club play, and in basketball it's a little bit different. We try to know who our kids are playing with. Sometimes fundamentals aren't taught. It becomes a way of making money in a business. Other times fundamentals are taught and kids are growing from it. So it all depends on the club and the intention of the club coach. But you do need mental breaks. And to go, we've seen a lot of kids who from the 6th to 8th grade, they're at all of the stuff you can be at, and then they get to high school and they're done. And they just don't want to play anymore. So there are those times where you do need those mental breaks.
All right, thank you very much, Mark. And I think that's kind of helped us transition to one of the other questions that we had entered here for our forum, which is, what are the biggest differences between playing recreational sports and playing on a competitive high school team? And certainly we've addressed that to some degree with club. And I think you've touched on one thing, which ultimately is playing time. So, and we've had a new addition here to our panel. So, Coach, I'll let you introduce yourself here to the audience, and you get to answer that first question right off the bat.
No problem. I'm James Carter. I'm the head football coach here at Sunrise Mountain. Playing time in high school, the best athletes play. Obviously, at the freshman level, we like to play everybody, but sometimes that doesn't happen. And as they progressively move up to JV and varsity, the best players play. And there's 11 guys on the offense, 11 guys on defense, and 11 on special teams. We do our best to spread that out, but sometimes the playing issue comes up where we have 70 freshmen, and some of those kids don't get to play as much as the other ones. And that's, the bottom line is high school athletics versus paying for a club team or playing AYS football where you're paying and have to play a specific amount of plays. That doesn't happen in high school. So it's kind of a reality check. We don't cut anybody in football, so that's a good thing. But some of these kids, we like to have them stay in football because they need football and discipline and so forth. But the varsity guys, only a select few play that are best players by our coaches, recommendations. So.
Okay, thank you, Coach. Jennifer, you could address that as well, just in terms of, sometimes as a coach, you have to have those tough conversations with both player and parent. How do you go about handling that?
Well, I think establishing the relationship at the very beginning of the season is really important between myself, my coaching staff, and the parents. Obviously, parents want to see their kids playing, and you support your programs because you are supporting your child. But that is the reality. Like James said, you can't expect to play everybody at a varsity level and have everybody win. So unfortunately, as the players progress, as their ages go up, you have to start to really communicate with the parents that, here's the expectation, here's the rule that your child is playing, as well as with the athlete, and let them know that, if you're number 12 on a 12-man roster, this is where you're sitting. And at that point, it's their decision how hard they want to work. I know for basketball, that's one of the conversations that we have in tryouts, is we tell the athletes, if you're here to dedicate every moment of your day knowing that you may never step on the court, come back. Because, the reality is we want to play everybody, but in order to win at the varsity level, it's not possible. And we say this at the parent meetings as well, that we would love in a perfect world to play all the athletes, but it doesn't happen. So, communication with the parents is key in our parent meetings and via email and phone calls. I think that's how we really address the issue of playing time and how we address any concerns, going on within our program.
Thank you very much. Any other coaches that would like to touch on that particular topic specifically? How about a couple of the student athletes? Because certainly you may be the starter, you may have a friend who is second team. Are those conversations that you have had to have? Amber, let me ask you right here, when did you begin identifying perhaps with frustrations of your teammates, and how did you try and handle and deal with it as a friend but also as a teammate?
Well, as a teammate, I tried to encourage my teammates to work their hardest and work their best at all times, because with all that hard work and stuff may come some reward, and they may get to play, and then as long as they keep working at it and as hard as they can, they will get there, hopefully one day. And it's my job as a teammate to help encourage them and help them keep going and not let them stop just because they feel like they're not doing so well or not, because you just got to keep working hard on things.
Thank you very much. Let's move along to another topic, and I think I've got a pretty good idea of the answers with each one of these coaches. But how much time is actually involved in participating in a high school sport? And I can see the faces and the expressions changing dramatically. Dan, let's go back to you for one of the top football programs. When you have that much competition, so many players coming out, the competition, the bar gets raised significantly. Again, you have those conversations with parents, with student athletes. Just how much time can they expect if they're playing, let's say, varsity football?
Well, obviously it's different in season and off season. What we tell our players off season is go play other sports. Get away from the game for a little bit. We want multiple sport athletes. We don't want just, football junkies. We want guys to play other sports. It's just going to benefit you down the road. It gets you a break from what we do. And if they're not in season, say, their other sport is baseball. So during their off season, we tell them, okay, now you're in the weight room. And we have our players commit about 2 hours every day after school to the weight room. Either they got to take the weightlifting class or they got to lift with the team after school. So you're either lifting or you're playing a sport. But regardless, you're there at our school doing something, all throughout the school year. And then summertime, again, it's 2 hours of lifting. We do some passing leagues. So we're busy and we do stuff year round. Whether you're in a sport or not in sport, we count, hey, if you're playing basketball, you're training for football as well. That's just part of it. I mean, that's part of your training is playing other sports. During the football season, it varies with the level. So if you're a freshman, your commitment, obviously we want to keep them in the weight room for a little bit, and then you're out on the field for 2-3 hours at a time. So it's probably each day, I'd say 3 to 3.5 hours every day. That's going to increase more you get. JV is going to be a little bit more. Varsity, we do a lot of, obviously during the season, we are going to be there watching film before practice. Then we have our practice. We do weightlifting in there. So each day we have those kids after school from about 2:30 and, basically 6, 7 o'clock at night. So they're there. It's a pretty big commitment on the varsity level. But to compete and to stay in the top realm, I mean, you've got to commit, and you've got to make that commitment during the season and obviously during the off season to making yourself better, whether that's playing a sport or in the weight room. You've got to be active. You can't just be, hey, I play football and come out day one. You are going to be so far behind. That's why we tell them, you play a sport or you're in the weight room, and that's the way it is. But time commitment, yeah, I think we can all up here say it's pretty much year-round. You're going to be doing stuff year-round. And it might not be with me on football. It might be, hey, you're playing for Coach Wood over there for basketball, but I consider them playing other sports part of their training for my sport, because that's just how important it is to get away for a little bit and also just develop other things and have a different experience as well. So it's a year-round commitment. And, I mean, we give them a couple weeks off in summer, but really, it's year-round. It's nonstop.
Jason, would you like to add to that?
For basketball, the kids that play club literally go right up to this weekend, and then our tryouts start, and then our season starts, and we, through February or whatever, and then club picks right back up after that. So, in club, for the summer, we like our athletes to kind of, if you have a youngster that's playing club coming to Sunrise, keep June open. We like June to be kind of development for the kids coming to our school all the way from first grade on up. That's our time for our camp and our feeder schools to kind of get acclimated with each other. And then July, right when July hits, we take a month off, and then first day of school, we're in the weight room. So from a time to put an exact number on hours, it's tough to do. But like Coach Filliman said, we encourage the multi-sport athlete as well. One sport ends, another begins, but it is year-round. I mean, you can't deny it. As a kid growing up, I played baseball and basketball, and if you played winter baseball, you were like ahead of the game. And if you played summer baseball, Babe Ruth, for 3 weekends, then you were, you felt like you had a mental edge. But nowadays, I think it's a little overboard personally. I think as coaches, we've all kind of said it. At some point, you need to take a break. Your bodies need to recuperate. Plus, I think if you're on a club team that's year-round and you're with those kids all the time, those relationships can be strained, and there's potential for it to become counterproductive, I think. So I do think, like when Coach Feldman said going from one sport to another, that's a natural break. And I need a break too. I think I've covered it all. But it's a year-round. During our season, 2 hours of practice, and then we go on Saturdays as well. And also on over Christmas break, basketball runs through Thanksgiving and over the holidays. And we give 2 days off before Christmas, maybe the 26th off, and then we're in tournaments. So if you're planning on having your child play basketball, Thanksgivings, and we don't practice on Thanksgiving, but before and after we're practicing. Over the holidays, we like to give a few days off, but we're playing in tournaments, we're practicing. And that's tough. And I didn't put a number amount on the time over the holidays, but it's a lot of time there too.
All right, thank you very much. I think what we'd like to do now is turn it over to some questions from our audience, because we've got a very good audience out here. I see a nice collection of parents and young student athletes. What we'd like to do is open it up to some of you. I mean, you've got a wealth of experience sitting here in front of you, an opportunity to answer questions directly for you. So what we'd like to do is, I'm going to bring the microphone out here, all right? And we'll get some questions. So if you can, raise your hands, and I will head out your way, okay? All right?
My name's Renee Skidmore, and I have 4 kids that all play sports, but right now my oldest is a sophomore. I noticed in the discussion that talking about the club and not club, it kind of wasn't definitive. I heard a lot of, it can cause repetitive injuries, that it's better to be an all-around athlete, that not necessarily to focus on one sport, but yet I also heard a lot of, we can tell the difference between rec kids and not. So as a parent that has a child that wants to take her sports, she's a triple sport player as well, wants to take at least one of them to the next level, to the college level, but doesn't have the time playing 3 sports every single season. She's in sport. She is not out of a sport. There's not enough time to do club in one sport and, the different high school sports. So which is best? Should I say at this point, now that she's a sophomore, say, hey, choose one and stick it with club? Or do I say, hey, it's great to be a volleyball, soccer, and softball player and keep doing all 3 all the way through high school? Because she has the ability to do all 3.
Coaches?
I think that whatever she wants to do is what she should do. As for, I can only speak on volleyball. I've been around the club scene forever for volleyball. In Arizona, California, Nebraska, all of the top states, unfortunately, volleyball players only get recruited through club. So if that is, the sport that they are looking to go at, and they are that natural athlete and they have that potential to be a college player, I feel that they need to make a decision and decide on which one they want to focus on. Now, I think playing all high school sports is a great thing, but again, if they know they're college bound for a specific sport and they have the talent and they have the drive, it might be time for them to focus on that sport in particular.
Well, her favorite sport is softball. Is that something that, who's the softball?
That's me. I totally agree with what she's saying exactly. In softball, it's the same exact way. Not even from when I was in high school, I barely saw one college recruiter at any high school game. And Arizona is one of the top states in the country for softball. And every college recruiter was coming to a club tournament in Colorado, in Florida, in Texas. That's where you get seen. It's not through high school ball. And unfortunately, like she said, there's a point where you have to kind of decide if it's something like Pazinski was saying earlier. You know, when he was in high school, it was like good if you were doing like a couple weekends afterwards. But now, unfortunately, it's not like that because, you know, there might be some kid down the road that's playing every day. And, you know, there is that chance for injury, but also there's that chance that they're getting that much better than the 3-sport athlete at that one sport. And all college coaches are looking at is their one sport. And so she kind of has to decide, is that something she really loves, or does she like being that all-around player? And, you know, I've had brothers that did the same exact thing. You know, I had a brother that loved baseball and loved basketball, and he kind of had to decide which one he wanted to do in college. And he didn't want to give either one up in high school. But, you know, in college he knew he wanted to play baseball, so he kind of had to give up basketball a little bit in order to make it through to do baseball. So it kind of, you know, it's one of those two-edged swords. What do you do? But it's a personal choice. You kind of have to decide.
And with that being said, I know I haven't been in high school for a long time, but I was a 3-sport athlete that did play club year-round. It's time-consuming. It's time-consuming on the parents. I mean, once I was able to drive, it was much easier for my family, and it is financially consuming. And I did also get an academic scholarship. So you can do it. I think it also depends on the work ethic of the student. Are they willing to not sacrifice academics, not sacrifice high school sports, and also be there for the other outside commitment that they made?
Can I actually add something to that as well, really quick? Sorry.
Please do.
No, you know, I was listening to you. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school as well, and I never played a club sport. I didn't play club volleyball or anything, and I was still recruited for 2 sports out of high school. One thing that I can tell you is there are so many opportunities. We're not just talking like Division I opportunities. There's Division II and Division III, and part of it is marketability. I mean, if you know that you don't have time to commit to a club, but you think that your child has the potential, then you gotta put in the work, or they have to put in the work to put their name out there for Division II, Division III, Division I, whatever you really feel their capabilities are. If club is not an option, or it is not possible right now, or just financially, you know, strenuous, whatever time commitment, there are options for you as a parent. There are options that you can go to their coach, because I know in my program I ask all of my seniors before they're seniors, when they're juniors, do you want to play? And we put a profile together and we decide where they want to go and where the reality lies. And some of them, you know, 2 of them got a scholarship last year for schools they never even thought could consider. So I think that, you know, you can look at other options other than just the D1 picture for, you know, your student athlete, even if club's not an option, and you can take that route too. So that's something you might want to discuss with the coach of the sport that she really wants to do.
Let's hear from a student athlete here.
And I got a scholarship for baseball, so go to U of A, but I also play basketball, so I got my scholarship through club sports, but I use basketball as the break that they're talking about, just to have fun, play with my friends, but also still play a different sport. But I use club as where I get my scholarship and I recruit myself, or put myself out there to the college coaches.
Thank you for the question, and good luck. Any other questions? Sir?
Yeah, my question is opposite of hers, and it's for Aaron, the volleyball coach. I have a daughter who is going to be a freshman at Liberty next year. She's played club volleyball for 3 years, and she does USA volleyball during the summers, the sand volleyball, and it's pretty much year-round with school and then club and then the sand volleyball. And this year I've encouraged her to get into softball, only because I feel she should do another sport and try something else also. And my question to you is, if she does go out, say, the freshman team and doesn't make it, am I understanding you correctly that she should stick with the club volleyball, even if she doesn't make the school team, for the scholarship opportunities, because she does plan on going to college, and that was one of her
I
original.
think it depends on if she's still willing and still loves the game. I don't think an athlete should, if they go out for a sport and get cut, if they lose the love for the game, I think that they should look into something that they might find more enjoyable. So I think if, for example, if your daughter were to get cut, I think she should continue to explore volleyball if that's where her heart is, and then also see if she could balance that softball and volleyball at the same time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Could I add something just real quick? For all parents to hear, the one sure way to get a scholarship is academics. And so many times we pour thousands of dollars into clubs, into recruiting, that the sure way to get it is academics. And you can go a lot of places with an academic scholarship and play even at the NAIA level, etc. So that really has to be the main focus. And we kind of get caught up with our athletics, and it's important, but academics is a sure thing.
We have time for one final question, and then we'll be concluding the forum, but I'm sure some of the coaches would be happy to answer some of your questions again once we wrap that up. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. My name is Mark Panko. I coach for the City of Peoria, youth sports, youth soccer, and basketball, some baseball and volleyball as well. I have 6 kids, so someone talked about the dilemma of club and the cost of, I think it was Aaron McCray. You know, if I make a decision for one, I have to face the reality that I might have to pay for all of them to play club. So my question is more from a youth coach perspective for the city. What can I do? When I played basketball in high school, the varsity coach had a middle school and the elementary school programs as well. I don't see that here. It's also a lot bigger community here. So what can I do, or what tools are available to me, what resources are available to me from the high schools I can provide to these rec league athletes to better prepare them for the high school level?
I think that's a great question, and I love that you're willing to coach. And I've actually seen you coach before, and you're an impressive coach. But I'll tell you, get licensed. Go through the coaching training. Especially, no matter, I'm sure in all venues and all coaches that I went through, I continued to certify. I think at your level, you would get the national or the E license, and then continue on, get the D, get the national C. The more training that you get in whichever field that you're coaching, the more equipped you are to make sure that you are providing the best possible coaching for your 6 kids in the venue that you can provide as a family. And then the one thing that I wanted to touch on as far as when you have a large family and you're deciding, do I offer club to all of my kids or just one kid? I think it's okay that if you do have one child that seems to excel in something specifically and the rest of the kids are in a different venue, that's okay. That's that individualism that we as parents, I know we struggle with that, but I think it's something that you don't hold back, one, if you have the means and the capacity to let them soar. And again, that's something that as a family, that I realize that that's a challenge. But I do think that there are phenomenal coaches that are in the rec level, and we were actually talking about how you can have your kids play for a club and play in some of the recreational leagues within a club because they provide coaching training in that club, and so your athletes are getting some great coaching with the proper technique and the tactics of the game.
Thank you very much, and again, a very good question. What we're going to do right now is we're going to conclude the tape portion of our program, and before we do so, I'd like to say a big thank you to our entire panel, both coaches and the student athletes. If you can, give them a nice round of applause for their time here tonight. Coaches and student athletes, thank you very much. Also, a special thank you being extended to Christine Gutierrez and Rick Johnson from Sunrise Mountain and Liberty High School for putting together this forum, the first of what we hope will be many in the years to come. We thank you for joining us. Again, that will wrap up the tape portion of our program, but if you do have a question, we'll keep our panel up here for a few more moments to address those questions.
And certainly thank you for taking the time out to come here this evening. Thanks to our viewing audience, and we hope you've enjoyed it as we come to you here from Sunrise Mountain High School.